Welcome to Imperfect Momming. Our children are constantly looking to us for examples. The term role model doesn't quite cut it here. We are shaping their worldview with every move we make. You see, it's not in the lectures we give or moments where we are actively attempting to teach them. It's in the micro movements we make, the unconscious ways in which we navigate life. We are constantly teaching our children how to show up for themselves, their friends, their future partners, and even their future children. So what can we do to ensure we are raising thoughtful, compassionate, self-aware human beings? We have to become them ourselves. No one is perfect, but we can still all be better, and it starts with self-healing. Let's get to it. Welcome back to Imperfect Momming, and we have a very special guest today, Natalie Wilkinson, correct?
Mm-hmm.
Welcome to Imperfect Momming.
Thanks for having me.
Tell us a little bit about who you are and what you do.
So my name's Natalie. I'm married, been married for almost 9 years. And then my husband and I have a son named Riley together. He is 7 years old. He's on the autism spectrum. I'm a stay-at-home mom, but I do have my background in mental health. So like prior to, kind of figuring out that Riley was on the spectrum, my goal had been to be a licensed marriage and family therapist. And I kind of just put that on hold because, as you know, like getting a diagnosis is pretty, it just takes up a lot of your thoughts, a lot of your energy, a lot of your time. So I put that on hold and I haven't really gotten back into it. I'm not sure if I'm going to. What else? I'm an artist. I run a support group for moms of autistic kids in the Central Valley of California. And yeah, those are like the main things.
And that's actually how you and I met. I remember that you wanted to start a group, and we were sort of in the very beginning. It was kind of the two of us together, and then I wasn't doing anything. So you just kind of took off on your own.
Well, you did help me in just giving me the confidence to start it, because I don't think I would have on my own, because I had no intention of running a support group. It really wasn't anything that I was interested in. I just saw a gap and was trying to fill a gap. And so if you hadn't said, I'll do it with you, I probably wouldn't have done it. So you did help me.
Well, I'm glad that saying yes and then flaking was good for you.
You had a lot going on though at the time.
Yeah.
So
I know I was. How long have you had the group? Because that'll help me figure out where I was in my mental.
4 years, but I remember that I believe you were a surrogate at the time.
Yeah.
Well, I know you still are, but I believe you were pregnant.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I'm pregnant with twins right now.
Wow. Do you know if they're boys, girls?
They're girls.
Oh,
yeah,
cool.
Identical.
Wow.
Yeah. So, and that was never, part of my plan, for sure. I was not mentally prepared for twins.
Yeah.
And now the things that scare me, I just have to bury my head in the sand about it, because there's no way of knowing, what's going to happen. And the thing I'm scared of is the labor part. And literally there's no way of knowing whether it'll be a C-section or natural. And I've done natural every time. And my favorite part of natural birth is that it's over after the baby's out. And this time there will be another one after the baby's out. And then I've never had a C-section. So the unknowns of C-section are a little daunting for me.
Mm-hmm.
And
Yeah.
so, there's part of me that's like, I just want to have a C-section. I'm angling for that. And then there's other part of me that's, well, my perinatologist, which is a high risk pregnancy specialist, said with your history, you can do a natural birth. And as long as the first baby isn't breech, then you're able to do that. So I think that worst case scenario would be pushing one out and then doing a C-section.
Yeah.
I think that would be worst case scenario.
You'd have to do both. Yeah.
Exactly. But
Yeah.
so I just like head in the sand. I'm not thinking about it.
Yeah.
But I've seen recently that you started a podcast, and
Mhm.
And of course I was intrigued by that for obvious reasons.
Yeah.
But I've been on the sidelines watching what's going on with your group, and when I have been able to, I've gone to your live support group because I'm also in the Central Valley of California. So when I've had the ability to go, I've gone, and I love it. So yeah. Talk any more about whatever you want to talk about.
Well, there's something I was going to ask you when you were talking about being a surrogate.
Mm-hmm.
No, I can't remember. Oh, I was going to ask you, are these your first babies you've had like since COVID started?
Yes, I was. Okay. I did an embryo transfer right before COVID shut down. Well, I think I found out that I wasn't pregnant the day that COVID shut down on March 13th was 2020 was when California shut down. I believe I found out that day, if not very soon after, that I wasn't pregnant. And then the mom, that was going to be a sibling journey. So I had a boy for that mom, and she had more embryos and wanted to have a girl. And so we were going to do it again, but she wanted to wait till COVID was over. And I'm like, well, COVID's never going to be over. So you're going to be waiting for a long time. And I knew I wanted to do it again. Maybe even 2 times. We'll see after the after this. I'm like, I'm old now. I feel old.
Yeah.
It's different. Very
different.
So.
Yeah. I was just thinking about like with your situation of being a surrogate and then COVID and how that's changed like hospital policies. Like, are you able to have support there with you in the hospital room?
Yeah, that's a great question. I believe one person, maybe. I haven't even looked into it because I'm still, burying my head in the sand about the whole thing. We've had a very interesting journey as far as doctors are concerned, because the insurance that I have, although it's pretty high tier, like the mom picked the best policy. No doctors in the Central Valley accept it. I guess I can't say none of them, but because we did finally find one in the Central Valley that accepted it. But we had 3 things that they had to be okay with. Number 1, high risk twins. Number 2, surrogacy. And then number 3, accepting the insurance. So it took 2 people 5 hours to call all the doctors to finally find one. And I'm going to be 19 weeks on Wednesday, and I have not seen an OB yet. I've seen my perinatologist, but I have not seen an OB. And it's just like, come on, guys, this is like the most high risk that it's ever been. Like, can we, take care of my health? And luckily I have good, I don't have, number 1, I don't have anxiety, and I have very good, like, anxious coping skills.
Yeah.
So we've talked a little bit on this podcast about children with autism. I don't know that we've really gone into depth in into it, I don't think. Is there anything that you that's present for you that you want to talk about as far as um, struggles and or the joys, or learning how to navigate some of those emotions of,
Mhm.
okay, I have a diagnosis and now what?
Yeah. Well, September is coming up on 4 years since Riley was diagnosed. So it's always kind of like a time where I reflect
Hmm.
um, on the whole thing. He's autism is so hard in the sense that like it's so different. Like your son is so different from my son, is so different from the next mom's kid. And
Yeah.
um, you know, now what I'm starting to think about is like, so my son in particular, he's very, very smart. But his biggest struggle is his emotional regulation.
Mm.
So, and people might not think that's a big deal, but it is. Like, it really can be a huge stumbling block in the school system because, they've got these classrooms typically with one teacher, and the teacher has to take care of the whole class. And so, if one child is kind of, you know, not able to stay on task, not able to emotionally regulate, then that pulls their attention. And so that makes it difficult for them to do their job. So they tend to kind of like resist, inclusion.
Hmm.
And so my fear right now, I would say my biggest fear, well, there's so many, but the one that's in the forefront of my mind right now is I'm very afraid that they're going to not push him to do what I know he can do. Like as
Hmm.
mom, sometimes I feel like um, believing in your child when other people don't, it feels like you're the last kid that believes in Santa Claus. You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
I know without a doubt that Riley can graduate high school. There's no doubt in my mind. He's so smart. But I'm afraid that because schools sometimes do tend to like push kids, special needs kids to the side, I'm afraid that someone's going to drop the ball and he's not going to have the opportunity to excel the way that I know he can, unless I'm like in people's faces all the time, which is very much not my personality.
Yeah.
I'm not a pushy person. I'm not confrontational. I don't like to be micromanaged, so I don't like to micromanage other people. And so I would say that's like probably what's like my biggest focus right now.
Yeah.
He has a great teacher, but he's not always going to have her. And I am one of those people that worries in advance. So I'm already thinking about high school and junior high and all that stuff.
Yeah. And did you go through early intervention?
No, I didn't really even start to see signs until Riley was almost 3.5.
Okay.
So we missed early intervention altogether.
Yeah.
Um,
There, I was, I always say that I was blessed to have my sister in college at the time that I had my son, and she was going through, um, she got her master's in child development with an
oh,
emphasis on autism.
wow.
And so she's going through school, and
Mm-hmm.
when you're going through school, I'm sure you experience this in your schooling with marriage and family therapy, that you start seeing the stuff that you're learning
Yeah.
everywhere, right? So she saw it in my son and said, you might want to go um, get him checked out. And I would say he was 16 months
Hmm.
when I was like, what is going on with this kid?
Mm-hmm.
And I'm going to even say something that I would feel ashamed to say now, like, what is wrong with this kid? Like,
Mm-hmm.
because he would have these emotional breakdowns because the toy that he's playing with fell off the table.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm like, just pick it up. Like,
Right.
why is it this catastrophe, right?
Right.
Hindsight is 2020. I'm sure you see the signs now that you
Yeah.
didn't see then.
Mm-hmm.
But what I realize, knowing that my son is obsessed with trains and that this toy was an elephant that made train sounds, and the table he was playing on looked like it was a track.
Yeah.
He thought that the train toy should go around the track, and it didn't,
Mm-hmm.
because it wasn't a track. It fell off the table. So he was mad. I get that now. When he was 16 months, is like, what is wrong with you? why
Yeah.
why so many big emotions over this little thing? Fast forward, 8.5 years, I still have a lot of that same thought process when there's a meltdown over video games.
Right.
Right? Like, the phrase that we have come to hate in our house is, they're targeting me. It's like, no, no, that's what happens in video games. Is this video game literally most annoying game ever? Is you go around slapping each other,
Uh,
and the the goal of the game is to kill someone else with a slap and steal their slaps. That's the goal of the game. The goal is that you're getting targeted.
Right.
But it's frustrating to him that he's being targeted, and I'm using air quotes for people who aren't watching. And what I've recently heard from friends when they come over is, that Xander will rage quit on everything. And his video games, if something's not going his way, he rage quits. And on basketball, if it's not going his way, he rage quits. I've also seen him shut down, where he's like super irritated and he'll just shut down. And I think the biggest struggle that we probably face is that nobody really knows how to deal with emotions. And so nobody taught me how to deal with mine. Yeah. And the way that I was taught to deal with my emotions is stop feeling stuff.
Right.
Be quiet. Right. Yep. Like, you're being annoying right now. Knock it off. Like, those are the things that we hear. You and I don't do that with our children because they have the diagnosis of autism. But we still don't know how to deal with it.
Yeah. Yeah.
I mean, that's a huge struggle. Yeah.
No, same. I was not brought up being taught, this whole thing now, gentle parenting, which boils down to just treating a child like a human. And like, that's not how I grew up. It wasn't like, I wasn't allowed to be angry. I wasn't allowed to be sad. I wasn't allowed to be offended, like nothing. I wasn't allowed any of that. And so, yeah, it is hard when you have a kid with big emotions, because it's like, gosh, like, I'm just learning how to deal with my own in a healthy way. And now I have yours, it's hard.
And not only am I trying to deal with mine, and now I got to figure out yours, but on top of that, I read a book called from Dr. Dan Siegel. It's not the one that I always mention. It's a different one. It's called Parenting from the Inside Out. I always mention No Drama Discipline. It's my favorite. Okay. But Parenting from the Inside Out, one of the first things he says in the book is that our children have a way of triggering our childhood traumas.
Yeah.
So not only do I not know how to deal with my emotions, I don't know how to deal with yours, and you're triggering my childhood trauma emotions.
Yeah.
It's like, no wonder everybody has mommy issues or daddy issues to some degree, because we're imperfect humans raising imperfect humans who
Mm-hmm.
are triggering our imperfect humanness.
Yeah.
You
Yeah.
know,
Mm-hmm.
uh,
Yeah.
the struggle's real, man.
Uh, yeah. I do feel um like there is more room for feelings now, than it seems like it was back then. So that's at least something. But I've definitely experienced that where um, it does trigger stuff from your childhood for sure.
And what did you call it? The gentle parenting?
Yeah, have you heard of that?
I've heard the term, and I love how you described it. It's just treating children like humans.
It
And
is when you read it, like some people think it's coddling, but it's really just having respect for children. At like you said, imperfect humans raising imperfect humans. Like it's just giving them more, because we do tend to expect a lot from children when they haven't had all the years on this planet to learn how to cope, to learn how to express themselves, and so it's basically just you know as an adult, as a person, I like information. Like if you're expecting something from me, or if something's going to happen, I want to know what's going to happen. I don't like being blindsided. I don't like just being, like, who does that? Who just goes around without information about what they're doing, what's going to happen. And I feel like that's part of it with children. The gentle parenting is kind of giving them more information, giving them choices, giving them explanations for things. And I don't think that there's anything wrong with doing that. I think that just sets them up for success, in a lot of ways.
yeah.
So, yeah.
I just attended a webinar about, I get a lot of advertisements on Facebook for parenting stuff. And
Mm-hmm.
and I attended a webinar because I have learned essentially how to not yell at my son.
Mm-hmm.
I used to a lot. And I would say I'm maybe like 10% of the time of what I used to do is what I do now.
Mm-hmm.
So that's a pretty significant improvement. I have no idea how I did it. I
Yeah.
want I want to teach other moms how to do it. But I was like, I don't remember the process. I just kind of stopped doing it. And
Mm-hmm.
I know that there were more steps. I just don't remember what they were. So I went to this webinar basically about how to not to stop yelling at your kids. And the thing that I found funny was that this technique she had taught. I want to say there's like 5 R's. I don't remember all of them because I didn't take notes. But it's basically that you're what you just explained, you're giving them the information. So, okay, we're going to turn off the TV, we're going to turn off the video games in 5 minutes. And if you don't turn the video games off in 5 minutes, then you're going to lose your privileges for video games later today or tomorrow. So can you repeat that back to me? That was one of the R's.
Yeah.
Right. So I found it absolutely fascinating that I had started doing that 2 weeks earlier. Not the repeating back to me part, but all the other stuff. I told him, because he was basically sneaking his phone into bed. And I say sneaking because at first there wasn't a rule against it.
Mm-hmm.
Then we're like, hey, he went into full day-night reversal during summer because I was dealing with so much nausea that I would like come home and go to bed. And it like, I just wasn't doing parenting stuff and I was barely doing living stuff.
Yeah.
You know, and he went into full day night reversal. And when we realized that, we're like, yeah, you can't take your phone to bed. Well, the very first night that we said that, we caught him in bed with his phone. And so the next day I said, okay, if we catch you in bed with your phone again, you're not going to get the phone the next day. And so we caught him in bed with his phone and took his phone the next day. And so that's part of it, is following through. Number one is that I think the other R is that the punishment is related to the problem. But this whole process, what it does is it gives them the essentially the choice to obey the rule. I'm either going to follow the rule or I'm going to lose the privilege. And they know about it ahead of time. And so, yeah, they might still get mad at you that this is a rule, but they're choosing not to follow the rule. Mm-hmm. And so they really can't get mad at, they will, because we often shift blame to not ourselves. Adults still do that. Mm-hmm. But I found the whole system fascinating, that, this PhD is teaching this, and I kind of came up with it on my own. I'm not really trying to pat myself on the back, but I'm proud of it too, at the same time, that like, I didn't have this training. It just came instinctual, like, hey, it's not fair that we give you these consequences that you don't know are going to happen. I don't think that's fair.
Yeah.
I don't like it if I'm at, work, and then I do something that I'm not that I didn't know I wasn't supposed to do, and then I get fired for it. Like, that's true story. Like,
yeah.
That feels awful. And so as a kid, we tend to do that as parents a lot.
Yeah.
Or we'll overreact in the moment and say, you're going to bed without dinner because you talked back to me. Well, those aren't related at all.
Right.
You know?
Yeah.
But yeah, it's a learning curve.
Mm-hmm.
We really beat ourselves up for not knowing everything when they're born.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's hard. There's a lot of mom guilt. I wonder if dads deal with that, with guilt.
Totally different kinds of
I've
things.
never asked my husband about that, but yeah.
I've had a couple of men. I mean, I've delved deep into the mom guilt topic, and I've had a couple of dads ask me to talk about dad guilt, and I'm like, no, that I'm not a dad. That's not my lane. Sorry.
Right. Yeah.
Go find a dad who feels guilty and knows how to overcome it. And what I have noticed is that the things that I've felt guilty for, my boyfriend is like, that doesn't make any sense to me. And the things that I feel guilty for, he thinks I should.
Yeah.
But I know there is a dad guilt. I don't know the depths or the causes, except for what causes guilt in general.
Mm-hmm.
So,
yeah.
So is there a piece of advice that you want to share to our listeners?
I think that one that I would say is that you have to give yourself grace when it comes to being a mom. It's hard being a mom. Like, it's really, really hard. And you show up to the role of being a mom with all of your baggage. Like, you don't get to leave it somewhere and then show up and then just start fresh. Like, you come to motherhood with all of your baggage, all of your deficits, all of your issues. And you have to give yourself grace for the time it's going to take you to learn how to be the mom that you want to be. I know for me, my son's going to be 8 at the end of September. And I feel like just in the last 6 months, I feel like I'm really learning how to be the mom that I want to be. Now, it doesn't mean that I've been a horrible mom in the past. It just means that it's taken me a long time to figure out, what's important to me, what's in alignment with what I think a good mom is. Mm-hmm. And that really took going to therapy. Like I had to go to therapy to figure that out. So yeah, I would say just more grace. I think we could always use more grace for ourselves.
Yeah. Yeah, I think that we definitely lack in the grace giving department.
Mm-hmm.
We're not, and I believe that it boils down to how much love that we have for our children, that we really want what's best for them. And when something happens that we don't think is what's best for them, it's our fault because we should have known better.
Yeah.
And that's so unfair to the younger version of ourselves.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that, I truly believe that we are exactly the parent that our children need. And that from a higher perspective level, that we, in a lot of ways, that we choose our parents and we choose the path that we're on this earth. And there are things that we have to go through to learn the lessons, to do the work that we're supposed to do while we're here.
Mm-hmm.
And the most lessons are learned through adversity.
Yeah.
Because if it was easy, why would we learn anything?
Yeah, that's true.
So, is there a book that you've found instrumental in your journey?
It's going to sound like a really weird answer to that question. I'm not a big self-help book reader, and more like fiction. There's a book called White Oleander that they made into a movie. Mm-hmm. And what is instrumental about it for me is just there's a character in the book named Astrid, and her mom's an artist. It's that part of it's really like her relationship with her mom is probably the biggest focal point of the book. But on her own, she's very artistic, and she is just a super creative person. She makes art out of anything. And I think that was something that was a really big deal to me when I first read it, because like I said, I didn't grow up having the freedom to express my feelings. I had a lot of feelings I didn't know how to express. And when I read that book, it really started the process of me learning how to express myself through art, which has been really huge for me. So that's definitely a book that made a big impact on me.
That's awesome. What kind of art do you do?
I tend to stick to they call it mixed media, which just means you use whatever you want. That's how I think of it. It's like if you're not somebody that likes rules when it comes to art, mixed media is cool because you can use whatever you want. You can do, collage, you can use paint, markers, whatever you feel like. So that's what I tend to stick to. I have bought a bunch of art supplies to start trying to make earrings out of clay. So that's the next thing that I'm gonna work on. But
that's really cool.
Yeah.
My son said the other day that
um, when he's sad, he likes to draw.
Mhm.
And that kind of gave me mixed feelings because now I'm like, well, why are you sad when he's drawing?
Mhm. Oh yeah, yeah.
But also I think it's a healthy way
Mhm.
to maybe if you're not, maybe express your sadness, but also just do something with it that's positive. Because at the end, you get to look at your picture, and most of the time people go, oh, how cool, like what a good drawer you are, or whatever.
Yeah.
But you get some kind of positive feedback at the end of it.
Yeah. Art's really great for kids. I used to work with kids in the group home setting, and they're kids that come from like abuse and neglect and all that kind of stuff. And if you want to get kids to talk about their feelings, art is great, because they'll sit there and they'll start drawing, and then before you know it, they're telling you about their day, and they're telling you like stuff that maybe they worry about or stress out about. So art's really great for kids, and kids when they're little like that, they don't care if they're good or not. Like there's this weird thing we do as humans. I don't know what age it happens at, but we stop doing things that we like if we're not good at them. Singing, dancing, art, all kinds of things. So art's a great one for kids.
I think that at some point someone tells us we're not good.
It's sad though. It's really sad.
Or an adult will come in and say, well, you can't make a living at it, so don't waste your time doing it. It's like, don't waste my time doing something that I enjoy. Cool. Right.
Yeah, I still struggle with that. Like when in buying art supplies to make earrings, I was like, well, what if they don't sell? In my brain, I was like, what if I can't sell them? And I thought, but that's not even why I want to do it. Like, I want to learn how to do it. I think I would enjoy it. And if I don't, it's not the end of the world. But there's always this, like that you have to make a living off of it. Or like people who can sing. It's like people say, well, have you tried out for American Idol or whatever? It's like, no, maybe they just like to sing for themselves,
Yeah.
I don't know why we do that.
Yeah, I remember I loved a cross stitch. And I mean, it's something that is just really relaxing to me. And I've had multiple people say, well, you should charge for that. And like the amount of hours that I put into it, like if I charged $300, I would still be getting paid like less than $1 an hour. And I did kind of come up with a plan where at least the hobby is free, because I could just buy a thing. I like the kits because then I don't have to mess. It's all put together, and like you got the pattern and all the strings already picked out for you. So I love the kits. But just buy a kit. They're usually between $30 and $50. Make the project and then post it on Facebook and say, who wants to buy this? It's $30 to $50.
Yeah.
And I'll put because I like to make Christmas stockings. I'll put your name on it. I'll put your kid's name on it, whatever. And you get this handmade Christmas stocking for $30 to $50. I'm in doing a thing that I love and enjoy. I've taken the time pressure off of it by just creating it, like making it, and then saying, okay, who wants their name on it?
Right.
And now my hobby, which hobbies usually cost money, is free.
Yeah.
And I was like, I don't need to make money off of it. The enjoyment of is what I do it for. I enjoy it literally, it's almost puts me in a coma state. Like it's so relaxing.
Yeah.
I think a friend of mine said it puts me into a meditative state, which I wouldn't have ever put that label on it, but yeah, it really does. And but I don't need to make money off of it. It's cool if it's free, but I don't need to make money off of it.
Yeah.
Well, where can our listeners find you? They want to connect.
I do have a podcast. It's called Rad Mom Radio, and it's on Spotify, Apple, and iHeartRadio. And I do have Instagram. It's Rad Mom Radio. I think that's it. Those two.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much for coming to pour into our guests, and our listeners. I'm mixing up words all over the place today. I've enjoyed our conversation. I don't know that we've had a one-on-one live conversation ever.
Yeah.
Except for when I went to the group, but that wasn't even one-on-one. So, but it's been a pleasure to talk to you and get to know you a little better. And
yeah,
I'm a big fan of what you're doing inside the Central Valley Moms group.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah. So we will have another episode of Imperfect Momming for you next week. And until then, keep healing. Bye, guys.
Thank you for tuning in to Imperfect Momming. It's time for us to step up and realize that our power is not in trying to shape our children. Our power lies in shaping ourselves into the people we want our children to model themselves after. Don't just do it for your kids. Do it for yourself. When you become a more self-aware, compassionate, and confident person, you and everyone around you benefit. For more information about me and my work, visit AlysiaLyons.com. That's AlysiaLyons.com. See you next time.